They say every day is for the thief, one day for the owner of the house. But ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission, has reversed the role. It is now every day for the owner of the house. If you're involved in bribery, over-invoicing, or any shady deal, the day of reckoning has come. ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission, is watching you. If you're reported for any corrupt practice, you'll be investigated, prosecuted, and punished. Corruption is harmful to our nation. Join the campaign against it by reporting any corrupt practice to ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission.
Let we join hands with ICPC, make them better.
Let's make Nigeria great again.
ICPC, they watch you.
And for corruption.
Break the chain of corruption now. Don't give, don't take. This message is brought to you by ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission.
Though the word corruption has been defined in various ways, it generally can be defined as an abuse of trust, office or position of authority, or an unethical conduct by an individual, frequently done for personal benefits. Corruption, of course, occurs on different scales. It can be grand corruption involving huge contract sums, or petty corruption like the rigging of measures by traders to cheat buyers. In whatever dimension corruption occurs, it is clear that it has destructive effects on the people and society at large, and these effects can be seen and felt in almost all aspects of their lives. What are the effects of corruption that our people suffer? This is our area of focus on today's edition of the program Corruption Must Go, ICPC's weekly television program. My name is Hawa Sani Garba. Also today we have corruption stories, Vox Pop on the topics of focus, as well as an interview segment on the topic of discussion. First, Ruth Awodi will bring up latest stories in the world of anti-corruption. Ruth, over to you.
Thank you, Hawa. Welcome to this segment. The acting chairman of ICPC, Honorable Abdullahi Bako, has charged staff of the commission to be dedicated and committed in carrying out their duties in order to achieve the organization's goals. Honorable Bako made the charge while declaring open a 3-day training retreat for the commission's zonal and state commissioners held at the Anti-Corruption Academy of Nigeria, ACAN, KEFI, ICPC's Research and Training Institute. The acting chairman, who was represented by the head of investigation department, Mr. Kayode Adedayo, explained that for ICPC to achieve its mandate of ridding the nation of all forms of corruption and related offenses, it was imperative to re-strategize and redirect skills towards achieving maximum results.
I am particularly concerned about the dedication and commitment of all staff to meeting the expectation of our numerous stakeholders. This end, you all need to retool and refocus your staff towards better productivity. The days of absenteeism, loitering, and poorly handled jobs are gone.
He emphasized that the essence of the retreat was to equip the officers of the commission with requisite skills and knowledge that would enhance their performance in order to achieve desired objectives. Honorable Bako also cautioned the trainees against acts that were inimical to the ideals of ICPC, saying that the commission would not hesitate to discipline any erring officer. He then expressed his resolve and determination to hand over a virile and disciplined workforce to the incoming administration. The 3-day retreat provided a platform for zonal and state commissioners to discuss how to improve on work in the zonal and state offices. ICPC has urged staff of the Federal Ministry of Power to demonstrate zero tolerance for corruption in order to ensure Nigeria's development. The acting chairman of ICPC, Honorable Abdullahi Bako, made the call during a sensitization exercise for senior management staff of the Ministry of Power in Abuja. Honorable Bako, who was represented by Mr. Akim Lawal, Head of Corruption Monitoring and Evaluation Department, CMED, of the Commission, said the workshop was aimed at educating, enlightening and mobilizing staff of the Ministry against corruption. The acting chairman further said that the workshop was part of the strategy to achieve the Commission's mandate of prevention as enshrined in the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act 2000. Honorable Bako added that public servants must be prepared to offer their services without compromising and making people believe that they must bribe or give gratification before getting results.
We believe that with you listening to us and going back to your work schedules and doing the right things, then perhaps the fight against corruption would have been 50% to 1. I want all of us to proceed on that basis. And fighting corruption will succeed with greater conscientization of each and every Nigerian, especially public officers, knowing that they have greater responsibility to serve Nigerians, deliver services to them, without looking forward to getting anything.
The Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Power, Works and Housing, Mr. Louis O.N. Edozen, who was represented by the Director of Planning, Research and Statistics, Mrs. A.I. Atta, remarked that the sensitization was timely and that participants should use the knowledge gained to help build an efficient power sector in Nigeria.
The seminar is coming at a time of commitment to higher standard of accountability and elimination of corruption. The seminar is part of that commitment to have accountability in the Federal Ministry of Power, Works and Housing power sector. I therefore congratulate the organizers for packaging the program effectively. I urge all participants at this seminar to put into maximum use the lessons and knowledge of this seminar for a better society and for a better Federal Ministry of Power, Works and Housing.
That will be all on this segment. Back to you, Hawa.
Thank you, Ruth. Welcome back. Dear viewers, it is obvious that corruption has far-reaching negative effects on our society. It affects the poor due to their powerlessness to change the status quo and inability to pay bribes, creating inequalities that violate their human rights. Corruption generally prevents governments of countries from addressing developmental needs, such as provision of good roads, good healthcare services, good education, and all necessities of life. Instead, leaders, professionals, and academicians are forced to dissipate valuable energy and time analyzing and dealing with corruption issues. Sharon Ogiriokwe, a lawyer and ICPC's head of board affairs, sheds more light on the Commission's enforcement and prevention activities, as well as successes recorded in the fight against corruption.
Can you, in a few words, define corruption?
That is a difficult task to do. Maybe because corruption is multifaceted, and so it's very, very difficult to define it in a very, very few words. However, I will attempt to bring some of the definitions by some writers. Transparency International defines it, and I think that is generally acceptable, that it is the abuse of entrusted power for private gains. The World Bank also has a definition for corruption, which is widely used. That is what is internationally used too, that it is abuse of public office for private gains. The interesting thing about the definition by the World Bank, it goes further to explain what it means to abuse public office for private gains. It says that when an official, accepts, solicits, or extorts a bribe, that is abuse of that office. It also goes to say that when a private agent actively offers bribe in order to circumvent a public policy or processes for their own advantage and profit, that is corruption. And some other few, and it's not only financial, they used to, you can, through patronage and nepotism, that is corruption. So the World Bank gives this explanation, and I can go further to say that any action or inaction, that contravenes, whether, irrespective of the cultural practices, that contravenes Nigerian penal laws, for private gains, that a public official or even private, not just public officers, private and public officials use to circumvent the processes that the government is put in place for their own private gain, is corruption.
Thank you, Ma.
Thank you.
Ma, can you tell us what effects corruption has had or has in the Nigerian economy and on the masses?
Again, it's obvious what corruption is done to any society, and not just Nigerian society. What corruption does is corruption is universal in nature. However, it appears that it's more prevalent in African countries, and this hurts the continent by keeping the continent, continuously backward. In the words of the former Secretary General, Kofi Annan, he says, corruption hurts the poor, in other words, the masses, disproportionately, by diverting the funds, the resources that should be used for development. And so it hurts the poor and the masses more. And so the government, is denied the ability to provide the services that would, help the poor. The services, and when we're talking about the services that government provides that everybody should benefit from, we're talking about the education of the society, we're talking about the health care, we're talking about power, we're talking about transportation. All these things, the funds that the government would normally provide, for these services have been diverted. Take the educational sector, for instance. When the money that ought to be used to fund this sector is diverted, it has ripple effect. The child is not properly equipped. The child who ought to be the leader of tomorrow is not properly equipped, and so he ends up in the street. You're coming into the premises of the commission. As you enter the reception, you see the roll-up banner says, education has denied this child. Corruption has denied this child his education. And so you see, whether in the north, in the south, in the east, in the west, is the same story. You see children, school-aged children are in the streets, when they ought to be in the classrooms. And so they are not taught, they are not trained. And they are more than the children of the elite. So eventually, they become a problem for Nigeria. They become a problem for the society. They are the ones that are easily recruited by the criminal elements in the society because they were not properly equipped. And then you get to the health sector. They are not where they ought to be. Basic things are not there. A child is being rushed to the hospital and he goes there, the doctor, even if the medical people are there, the equipments are not there. And so you even see the little funds that we have in the country takes flight out of the country for medical tourism. And so this talks, it's weighing down on the country, is dragging the country more and more backward. That is sweeping the system. And so when the system is working properly, things will run properly, and you are sure that your children will go and get educated and get equipped and empowered to face the future, to lead the country. You also get to the health sector. The ICPC also did system studies in the health sector, and that has streamlined some of the things in the health sector now. So ICPC is also in partnership with some professional bodies like COREN, a Council of Engineering, Council. So if all the contracts in Nigeria, engineers are involved. And so when you're dealing with bodies like COREN, you're dealing with bodies like NBA, Nigerian Bar Association, you're dealing with bodies like Bankers Institute, and all of this, you're encouraging them and educating them to infuse the integrity ethics into their codes of conduct. And so the constructions, you will not have constructions or buildings falling here and there, bridges collapsing here and there, if the man knows that he will be accountable for what he is doing, and he's infuse integrity into the way he operates right from the beginning, even from the drawings. And so ICPC is partnering with these professional bodies. And before I actually leave the educational sector, I must say this: the ICPC also developed what is called a national values curriculum, which infuses integrity studies into the core subjects of elementary schools, from basics 1 to 9, and then senior secondary school 1 to 3. And we have also done for colleges of education and a teacher's guide. In order to be able to teach this properly, a teacher's guide and manual has also been developed, and they've been trained to workshop for teachers on this. So ICPC is using that that avenue, the system studies, to put a lot of things in place and systems in Nigeria. I can also tell you this, that for a while some embassies in Nigeria were not feeling comfortable to deal even with public bodies, because fake or forged documents were being sent to these embassies in the guise of note verbal. Things will be slotted in. Now these embassies partner with ICPC. They trust that ICPC will help them find out, and they are beginning to gain confidence. I don't want to name any embassy, but we are working with embassies, and they are beginning to be more confident with the processes that we are putting in place. And truly most of the things is about processes. Once the processes are clean and transparent, it will reduce corruption to the barest minimum. And I would like to end this with the words of one of my instructors that I respect very, very much, Professor Alemika. He asserted that corruption has corrosive and inhibiting effects on national security, integration, and sustainable development. So that means that if corruption is not handled, issue of insecurity is also tied to corruption. Issue of course, sustainable development is tied to corruption. If the funds are not there, you can't develop with anything. So I would like to end with these words of the wise professor.
Thank you very much.
now. I'm going to how work.
Oh, correct, Oga.
What is it that you are doing?
Oga, they command the part now. Make we go sell for.
Oga, na correct kuza be this o. Oga Titus and him boys them. They do am. They go command the original parts, sell them, make plenty kuza.
No wonder our customers bring the generator back to our workshop because they bad. And not because of stuff.
Now because they overuse the generator. Plus say NEPA no they give them electricity.
Before I open my eye, Makachuku look at my talk in the heaven. Replace this original generator parts back inside this generator of my customer. In short, before una do am, frog jump. One, frog jump. 1, 2, 1. Stealing of generator parts or changing of original parts to a fake one. That is the corruption. Not in my country.
Stop corruption now.
Corruption not in my country.
With a strong preventive slant to eliminate corruption. The Commission has over the years initiated and is executing various anti-corruption programs to educate and inculcate anti-corruption consciousness in the citizens through its Citizenship Engagement Forum, a grassroots mobilization platform. Establishment of Anti-Corruption and Transparency Monitoring Units (ACTU) in ministries, departments and agencies. Anti-Corruption Volunteer Corps and many others. All these are aimed at involving the citizenry in the fight against corruption in order to prevent or minimize corruption and its negative effects on our society. What are you waiting for? Please join in the crusade today to help make Nigeria a better country for us all. Thank you for watching and see you again next week, God willing.